I got glasses at the age of 3. I was bullied and teased, and I was literally the only kid with glasses. There has to be another way. And I discovered a book. When I turned 15, the eye doctor said, your eyes are normal. And I was like, wait, what? My eyes are normal? I was so happy. And then a couple of years into that, high school, exams, studying, and my vision got blurry again. And that's why I was like, okay, I got to do something. I never, ever want to wear glasses again. Eyes are light receivers. So if you put sunglasses on all the time, how does the brain even know what time of day it is? And I realized really quickly how much my vision got worse wearing them. I could not read. It was impossible. And in that moment, my vision was so blurry, like way worse. And I thought, like, this is crazy. I need to do something. Like, this is only going to get worse. That vision improvement is all about relaxation. It's not about exercising the eyes. 90% of vision is actually working with the brain. If we can't imagine seeing something, we literally can't see it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, so cool. Hello and welcome to Wellness is Life podcast. I'm your host Natalia and Naila, and today I'm joined by Claudia Muehlenweg, the founder of Naturally Clear Vision Institute and the creator of the Naturally Clear Vision Method, a proven system that's helped thousands of people around the world see clearly again, without glasses, contacts, or surgery. Claudia teaches that eyesight isn't just about the eyes. It's about stress, posture, mindset, and even unresolved trauma. And through her method, she helps people reset their visual system naturally for life. In today's episode, we are going deep. We'll explore why glasses might be making your visions worse, now how modern life is quietly wrecking our eyesight, and what you can start doing today to protect and even improve your vision in a way that's smarter, more sustainable, and more in tune with your whole body. Whether you are already wearing glasses or just noticing your screen time catching up with you, this episode will challenge everything you thought you knew about eyesight. Claudia, so nice to have you here in my studio. Thank you so much for coming. I just recently met you at the Biohackers World here in LA, and Tim Gray, he introduced me to you. And as we know, the conversation around eyes are so big. It's one of the biggest topics, I would say, out there, because a lot of people wear glasses. A lot of people have issues with eyes, especially going into older age. And now I know that actually newborns are born with vision problems these days. A lot of young kids are already having these problems. So I'm so excited about this conversation to learn everything about eyesight. And even though I've talked to a couple of my friends and I told them who I'm going to have on my podcast, they're like, oh my God, you got to call me right away and tell me everything that she said. I was like, okay, this is a hot topic. So let's dive in. Let's start from the beginning. Do you remember the moment you realized your vision was a real issue for you?
Yeah, I got glasses at the age of 3. And when I got into school at 6, I was bullied and teased. And I was literally, except for one boy, the only kid with glasses. So I realized at that point that it wasn't normal to wear glasses. And I was born in the 60s. So that boy was the smart professor who knew the answer to everything. And I had to study really hard. And that's the point where I realized this is not normal. I had what's called a convergent squint. My right eye turned in and I was farsighted. I do not have my original pair of glasses anymore from my little age on. My mom threw those away at some point, but I know I had problems seeing close up, but even the middle distance. So I wore the glasses basically all day long.
And do you still wear glasses?
No.
Oh, like what I want to learn everything. How did you fix your eyesight? Was there a moment where you did not want to wear your glasses anymore and knew there had to be a better way or some other ways to go about and fix this?
Well, I got rid of my glasses twice in my life. So the first time was as a kid. So obviously I was bullied, I was teased, I didn't have any friends. And I was called all the different names. And at that point, I was already determined, like once I got to like pre-puberty, like, 10, 12, I was like, there has to be another way. And I discovered a book that I still own. I had to go to all the bookstores. Back in the day, there was no Google and no nothing. And I found this book on vision improvement and I did the techniques and immediately saw an improvement in my vision. And in hindsight, I also started playing handball. Not because I was good. In fact, I was horrible. I would not catch the ball, but they needed girls on the team. And so I couldn't wear glasses. I was outside playing ball in the light. Now I know how beneficial this was. And when I turned 15, the eye doctor said, your eyes are normal. And I was like, wait, what? My eyes are normal? I was so happy. And then a couple of years into that, high school, exams, studying, and my vision got blurry again. And that's why I was like, okay, I got to do something. I never, ever want to wear glasses again.
And so, because the stress actually reversed your eyesight back to bad again, or what was it?
I think it was a combination of the stress, the pressure to get the exams right. So that stress. And also not really having friends. I didn't really have any friends. I was very secluded, like a shy girl. And that contributed to those problems. So not feeling confident, not feeling good enough, and definitely the stress of just studying all day long.
So do you think it's all emotional?
I don't think it's all emotional, but stress is, you already hit the nail on the head.
Okay. And so going back to where from 12 to 15, you improved your eyesight playing in the sunlight. So the sunlight, what I hear, improves the eyesight. And also, what technique exactly did you learn from that book?
So let's get back to the ball playing. So that was like throwing and catching. That was the thing I had a problem with because my depth perception wasn't good. So throwing and catching, I was always like, bad at those things. But doing that a lot, and not so much in the games because I never barely ever got the ball in the games, but in the practice, right, we did a lot of that. You had to have your peripheral vision, otherwise you didn't see the other players. So those things, being outside, moving, all helped. And then in terms of the book, it was all about relaxation, which kind of threw me off. I thought I have to do eye exercise, and that was all about relaxing yourself, which was so interesting.
So parasympathetic mode is really important for healing, basically, in any ways, right?
Absolutely.
So why do you say sunlight is very important? Because now these days we all wear sunglasses, we're trying to protect. And I see you have a blue eyes, I have a green eyes. And we know how at least it's hard for me because the green eyes are actually lighter than the blue eyes. The perception of light hits it stronger. So for me to go on the sun without the sunglasses is really hard. I would be like squeaking. I'm like, oh my God. So is that true that wearing sunglasses at all times actually messes up your circadian rhythm, actually ages you faster, ages your eyes faster?
Eyes are light receivers, just like the ears are sound receivers. So we don't put earmuffs on our ears saying, oh my God, my ears are so sensitive. Of course, if we are exposed to like extreme loud music, we would put little earplugs in. So I don't know if that's true about I have actually green eyes.
Oh, you do
green,
have
blue.
green?
Yeah, I know it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true. I know some people that have bright blue eyes that can literally look directly into the sun, and other people that have brown eyes that cannot. But there's a couple of things to consider. First of all, eyes are light receivers. So if you have trouble receiving the light, there's already a problem with the eye and the processing of light, right? That makes sense. So, but we also want to differentiate between the different times of the day, right? We have sunrise, sunset. We have the middle of the day. We have more blue light, basically at noon. We have no UV and blue light in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. So we now know how beneficial natural light is. The circadian rhythm, 100%. And if you don't have a good circadian rhythm, that affects all of your biology, not just sleep, everything, your hormones.
That's true.
And remember, when we are not getting the natural light into our eyes, the eyes is the only way the brain knows. We don't have any light receptors in the skin. We only have light receptors in the eyes. So if you put sunglasses on all the time, which I used to do, by the way, how does the brain even know what time of day it is? And dermatologists and studies that they have done, because when you have sunglasses on, especially the dark ones, they actually your pupils open up just a little bit. I know this is anatomy, but the pupils are small in bright light and they open up in dark. Now you have dark sunglasses on and the brain doesn't know that it's really bright. Have you ever been at a beach and you take your sunglasses off and you're like, oh, wow, it's really bright. And then immediately you put sunscreen on and you go in the shade. So when you wear the sunglasses, especially if it's a little breeze, it's not too hot, you might stay out longer, which can actually lead to more sunburns and potential skin cancers.
Wow, interesting. How important is actually sun gazing in the morning and sun gazing on sunset? Is that benefits any to the eyesight of the health? I know it's great for circadian rhythm, but what about the eyes?
I don't necessarily exactly do sun gazing. If I do it only at sunrise and sunset, and I do a lot of blinking. I'm not staring at the sun, but just being outside and natural light is really, I haven't worn sunglasses in over 20 years. But there's always important exceptions to make. So we have to go over those, that not everybody thinks it's okay to never wear sunglasses. But I wear a cap or a hat, and in most cases that's enough. Or if I would to go to the snow or ski and it's bright blue skies, that might be too much at that
because
point.
the white snow reflects the everything.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I heard that you are a big proponent of blinking a lot. How often do you have to blink, and why people sometimes forget to blink? When do they forget to blink?
So blinking is one of those simple habits that people with great vision automatically do about every second to every other second. It lubricates the eyes. We only need 10 seconds of not blinking to thin the tear film. And we hear about dry eyes nowadays, right? Everybody has dry eyes and takes these artificial drops, and that makes it actually worse because now your eyes produce even less tears. So it does that. And it also prevents you from staring. So the bad habit is, especially people that wear glasses, it's like this staring, like the deer in the headlight. You're not, I can't even do it anymore. It immediately causes the strain.
You did it well.
But, it's this strain. And what studies have found, when we look, like if we look each other into the eyes, right? If I were to just stare at you the whole time,
it's hard.
Wouldn't that also feel like creepy?
It also feels creepy and weird.
It feels creepy and weird,
I've
right?
been to those, the classes where they try to tell you, well, look at the eyes as long as you can and don't blink. I'm like, wow.
They usually don't say don't blink, but I've done that a lot, and people literally do this.
Yeah.
And then I softly blink, and then the other person blinks too. But when we look at screens, and that's where screens, because I use the screens all day long and it doesn't affect my vision. But one of those things, when we look at screens, we literally forget to blink.
So what do we need to do then? Remind ourselves?
Well, I teach something called butterfly blinking, where maybe for 10 seconds you just blink a lot. Just really relax. Like, think of a butterfly, not like a heavy garage door that you have to open and close. That's teaching your body. But initially, when I started my journey, I had to put stickers everywhere. I just you had a little bookmark in my book, and it said blink, 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 or put stickers on the computers. So it's a way to remind yourself, but also every time, like I'm driving, because here's the thing, when we focus on our work, we might forget. But the more you do it, like I said, it would hurt my eyes now, because now it's an automatic habit. I don't have to think about it anymore.
So do you think more people do not blink?
100%. I see that a lot, especially with people that wear glasses, especially in nearsightedness. There's always this, when somebody looks at you like this, staring into space, and you're like, hello, it's literally zoning out, like your mind is somewhere else. Your eyes are pointing somewhere, but you're not actually taking in that information.
So looking back at your vision issues, do you think it was emotional or physical?
It's hard to say because I was 3 years old and I don't remember that exactly. What I had strabismus, or commonly known as squint, and farsightedness is more common in children because all babies are actually born farsighted. Because when we look in the distance, that's the relaxed state of the eyes. And when we look up close, we have to cross our eyes. So that's something that babies have to learn. So I don't know. It could have been the pregnancy of my mom. I'm not really sure, to be honest. But I definitely, once I got the glasses, emotions became a huge piece of it.
Interesting. What made you decide to start teaching this to others? And was there a moment when it truly felt like your mission?
Yeah, so I talked about my childhood, but then in my mid-30s, so I was glasses-free in my 20s. In my early 30s, I married, I moved to the United States, had 2 girls, ended up separating, difficult marriage, ended up, the whole 9 yards, single mom. And I noticed my vision in my late 30s got to the point where I was like the freeway signs, like, what does it say? So I realized I need help. So I got glasses, mostly for driving back then, especially at night. And then I realized really quickly how much my vision got worse wearing them. And then I was in my early 40s and I had this one epiphany. So I was already separated from my husband. I try to go out, living in Los Angeles. That was before we had Google Maps or any of this, right? You drive from West LA to Silver Lake, and on the way back, I took the wrong freeway, and I was somewhere. And I was sitting in my little black Audi back then, and I remember the Thomas guide. Anybody that big thing, right? And I remember pulling that out and having the little light in the car on, and I was like, glasses on, glasses off. I could not read. It was impossible. I figured out, okay, let me just drive. At some point I will recognize the street, and I did, and I made it home. And I remember I had the glasses on and I took them off. And in that moment, my vision was so blurry, like way worse. And I thought, like, this is crazy. I need to do something. Like, this is only going to get worse. And I was a single mom, worked as a designer back then. Anyway, in that moment, that night, literally it was like past midnight. I was sitting in my car. First I was crying because I was like, what's happening? This is scary. And I'm like, wait a moment. I still have that book. And I searched through all my stuff, found that book. But then at that point, I was in my early 40s and I needed more help. And then I found a vision teacher to help me, like a person to work with me. And then at some point, I saw results really quickly. I was like, this is something I want to do. And it took me like 5 more years to decide I really want to study this. And was also dissatisfied with my career. You know, late 40s, you're like, I don't really like to work in advertising anymore. This is not fulfilling me. And so I did the vision teacher training. And initially it was like a side hustle. You know how we do these things.
Always,
And then at some point I'm like, this is crazy. I saw the results that I got people, just like me. I was out of glasses by then. And I was like, this is something, people need my help. And that's really when I got into...
That's beautiful. And you do help thousands of people. I know you have a great institute that you teach people online. Do you teach people also offline? They come to you or only online?
So when I first began, I would only see local people in person. And that's what I did for the first few years because I still had to provide money. You know, in LA, you have to make a lot of money to support 2 kids on your own. And I couldn't just be like, oh, I want to do vision. And I didn't really know. I realized even though I worked in advertising, I didn't know anything about marketing or online marketing. So once I realized that, I would still teach clients online and in person. And at some point, I realized people in group programs actually get better results because there's accountability, there's community. Because with private clients, you know, oh, I'm so busy, let me schedule, and then they move their set, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And then at some point I was like, this is frustrating. It takes me way too much time. And they don't get the same results as people in group programs.
So you started doing groups first?
I only do groups now, yeah.
Oh, wow. So you do it in person too?
I've done one tiny retreat right before COVID, and I definitely want to do retreats again.
Okay.
Because I love working with people in person, but right now I do everything online.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So let's go over what is your teachings based on? If you can give us quick little tutorial, what people should start implementing.
So if you've heard about the Bates method, this was founded by Dr. Bates, an ophthalmologist and Columbia professor. That's really the foundation of my work. I also studied yoga. I studied myofascial release, so working with the body, because everybody is so tense. And 80% of the parasympathetic nervous system is feed from the body to the brain and only 20% from the brain to the body. So I work a lot with bodies, like literally from the feet up. Everything is connected.
Is it like a massaging or relaxing?
It's more like a self-massage, myofascial release. I use little balls to help people. So it's all basically, I empower people to do it themselves so they don't need... Massages are great. But when you understand where your trigger points are and you really know how to address them, and sometimes a massage can be too hard or it's not enough and you don't really feel the benefits. So I do that. And then also some things from like a brain gym, which is more like, how the eyes work together, infinity signs, there's all kinds of things. And then from vision therapy, something called a Brock string. We want to also work with the eyes together as a pair and separate.
Okay.
So I do those things. And then also emotional work. We have to address the emotions.
Let's talk about that because that's huge. And I think it's a big part of everything. So why is emotional? Why is emotional contributes to eyesight?
So we talked about stress already, right? I also call stress really the root cause of vision problem because when I ask my clients, when did you get your first pair of glasses? And they often say, I was 8, I was 10, I was 12, I was maybe in high school or in college, or maybe I was in my mid-40s. And then I ask them, what happened about a year or two before? And sometimes they say, nothing. And then wait, we moved a lot. I got bullied. I got teased. My parents divorced. Or I went to a new school. I didn't have any friends. Or my grandma died. Or something that upset your nervous system to the point where your nervous system always wants to protect you, right? So if it's scary to see this stuff, it's better to not see that so clearly. And even in your 40s, maybe you feel like I'm older now, maybe I'm not attractive, or maybe I had a client who told me she was a pharmacist and they went from writing everything by hand to computers. That stresses so much because now you have the people coming into the pharmacy, but you also have to figure out. So a lot of times there's some kind of heightened level of stress involved that causes that initial decline in your vision. So that's something, and then that we can go into specific emotions with different vision conditions too.
Right, let's go over that.
Yeah. So with myopia is nearsightedness, and people always confuse this. Nearsighted means you can look really close and well up close, but the distance is blurry. I find that often starts in childhood. Again, we are born farsighted, so how do we become nearsighted? Often anxiety, fear are huge piece of it. So myopia, people tend to be always the warriors, thinking about the future, the worst case scenario, that kind of thing. Farsighted, but that was my struggle. There is more of a like thinking about the past, could have, should have, would have. There's frustration, there's anger. Sometimes things don't go fast enough. And then astigmatism, which is the third so-called refractive error, we have our little eyeball, affecting the, so astigmatism, refractive errors are basically problems that affect the refraction of the light. So this is the cornea, the top, and then inside here we have the lens. All the parts. So that is referring to how the light gets put into the retina, right? So those are nearsighted, farsighted, astigmatism. Astigmatism can be a confusion. You're not really sure who you are. You feel unsure about your feelings and your wants. And I had very bad astigmatism in my right eye. And that's, for instance, indecisiveness. Always asking everyone, what should I do? What should I do? You just don't trust yourself. And I also feel there's a sense of, so astigmatism has different focal points, and it's connected to like that ADD, like multitasking, always jumping from one thing to the next. That's something connected to astigmatism. And then we can go into eye diseases too.
Yeah. So going back to, let's see, what about cataract? How do people get cataract?
So going back to my little model, now all the parts are floating around. So cataract is affecting the lens of the eye. And that gets cloudy, and that's by proteins that are in a perfect structure normally. So cataract is basically affecting the lens, and it's a clumping up of the proteins, making the lens more cloudy. So think of a fogged up shower door. And it could start at the bottom of the lens, in the middle. But basically there is a cloudiness, and it's connected to like, why do we get this in our 60s so commonly? Retiring, what is my purpose? Like not having joy in life, not feeling like there's a dark future, there's nothing great ahead of me anymore.
Yeah, so do you say that you can actually reverse cataract?
I never say I can reverse anything because we never know, but I had a student recently in my program who had an early stage cataract. She said her eye doctor couldn't find it anymore after the program, and we just had somebody in my new teacher certification program who went from a stage 3 in her right eye to a stage 2, and from her left eye a stage 2.5 to a stage 2. So her cataract improved. But I also had people like literally not needing Fuchs dystrophy transplant, corneal transplant surgery, but we never know. Because there's so many other factors. There's toxins, there's diet. There's so many factors that I can't really control.
And what do you think about diet and supplements? Can they improve the eyesight just doing the supplements? Because I hear like a lot like, oh, take these supplements and it will improve your eyesight. Is that true?
Yes and no. I mean, the retina, the macula, where we have the sharpest vision in the retina, is covered by plant proteins and pigments. And those are found in like dark leafy greens, lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin is a microalgae. So a lot of times when you buy eye vitamins, they have those ingredients. But they found in studies with macular degeneration, where the retina in that area is affected, that was the ARED study. They found that if you don't already have macular degeneration, it doesn't really make a difference. My thing is always eat a clean diet, plant-based, or at least a majority of plants. You want to get all those. You've heard this a million times, the dark leafy greens, the rainbow vegetables.
But people still need to be reminded.
Yes, but so if you already have macular degeneration, it could be helpful to take those additional supplements and vitamins. But the more important thing is to eat a clean, healthy diet, drink a lot of clean water, like drink good amount of water. and get rid of toxins. So lead, for instance, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Lead is a risk factor for cataract. Steroids.
Oh, interesting.
Sometimes people take steroids. It's a totally a cause of cataract. So
Wow.
you know what I mean? So there's certain things that you take. Mercury, all these heavy metals obviously have an impact on your eye health, right? So we need to address those levels too.
Yeah, I had just Natalie right before you, and you guys met first time. She's a huge proponent how to detoxify your body. And we talked a lot about how it's number one and first to clean your body from toxins. And once you clean from toxins, everything starts then moving.
Exactly. So when we look at an eye disease, it is the physical things. What are you doing with your eyes? But it's also your mental and emotional aspects. But also, again, we have to look at the rest of the body, right? Like if there's heavy metal exposure, if there's inflammation, we have to address that, right? This is not where you just do a bunch of eye exercises and that resolves all your problems.
And what kind of a disease are there for the eyes? And what can you do about it?
Oh, there's so many. So we talked about cataracts, clouding of the lens. The other thing is, so retinal diseases, that is macular degeneration, often called AMD, age-related, because it's affecting more older people. Then we have glaucoma, which affects the optic nerve. A lot of times the pressure in the eye is too high. So the IOP, the intraocular pressure, is too high. Sometimes the pressure is also normal, but it affects the optic nerve. And glaucoma is called the silent vision killer because you lose your peripheral field, top, bottom, on the sides. But it's not like it's a black hole. The brain fills it in, right? But you don't even realize that you lose your peripheral field. And that is really dangerous when it comes to driving, or, if you don't see what's happening on the side, especially. So those are the top three, I would say: cataracts, macular degeneration, and then glaucoma. So those all affect different parts of the eyes. And then we have, PVD, post-vitreous detachment, which is a vitreous detaching, retinal detachment. Like Fuchs, we talked about Fuchs dystrophy, so corneal diseases. There's so many eye diseases, but they're all affecting different parts of the eyes. And so we have to look at a retina problem different than a cornea problem. Does that make sense?
Right.
Or a pressure problem.
Yeah. And your teachings are all kind of like helping people to get better.
Exactly.
And I know wearing glasses that actually worsen your eyesight. People think, well, if I wear glasses, I will correct it, but yet it's worsened over time. Is that true?
That's what I found with myself and pretty much with everybody I work with. So I call glasses the pills for the eyes because they allow us to have all the bad habits, like stare and strain, and they still reward us with clarity. It's kind of like when you pop pills, I don't know, for high blood pressure or something, instead of addressing why is the blood pressure high, right? So that's what I found. So glasses also give us this false sense of everything behind the glass is sharp and everything outside is blurry. When our actual eye anatomy, we only have a very tiny spot of perfect clarity. So even when you have the glasses on, doesn't mean like here is already blurry. But you get that false sense of, so there is a sense of tunnel vision. Like people with glasses often don't even pay attention to the peripheral field, which is as important as our sharp vision. And glasses distort things. So if you're nearsighted, the lenses make everything look smaller. When you're farsighted, it's like a magnifying glass. So there's a distortion of proportions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why would you say once we turn 40, like in your case too, everything starts changing? And yet sometimes we see people in their 80s and 90s have perfect vision, never wear glasses, can read, can do all this stuff. What makes that difference?
I think it's many factors. First of all, it's how you use your eyes. It's also, I found that people that have these big visions in their life that are like really excited to get up every morning. I looked at the blue zones, right? They have this ikigai in Japan, this purpose. Like, why am I getting up in the morning? They have less vision issues than people that are like, oh, it's another Monday. I have to, trot to work. So mindset, beliefs, and also, again, how healthy you are, how much you're outside. So you could also have some good genetics, that can also play a role. But again, how are you using your eyes? Because I'm on the computer all day long. It doesn't mean that my vision gets worse, but I know what I'm doing.
Okay, so what are you doing?
I am blinking a lot. I have my computer in front of a window so I can easily look up and look in the distance. I don't like the 20-20-20 rule that eye doctors love to tell everybody every 20 minutes, get up for 20 seconds, look up 20 feet in the distance. Who does that? Put the computer not against the wall, but put it against the window. Have your room equally brightly lit so that your peripheral vision, ideally even have things moving in the periphery, because that's what we see in the periphery. Blinking, doing all those things. Does that make sense? And sometimes when I'm standing, even I'm on a little balance board, so you already create a little bit of movement, because the last thing we want is that staring. And again, think about what I said about how sharp focus is the size of a pinhead. So people that stare at the screen and that try to see it all, that makes your vision worse. So moving your attention, focusing on where you want to look, moving your head actually along with your eyes.
And do you think, because I heard people who are on the computers all day long, actually their eyesight gets worse because of the blue lights. Is that true?
So I brought some blue blocking glasses, but here's what I think. Computers, yes, they have too much blue and green lights. The best light is the natural sunlight, right? I use software on my computer. So I have an Apple product. I'm not affiliated with them, but you can set your night shift mode and I just have it on all day long and the screen is slightly yellow.
Okay.
Right? So that's too much blue light, especially it screws up with our circadian clock, 100%. I do not, but if I'm, let's say, inside right now, we're inside here, this would be a point where I might wear blue blockers because this is not very natural light and it gives us too much blue, which we really only want the most of at noon, not the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a component.
So you would wear the blue blocking glasses, let's say in the midday, if you're working on a computer. Oh, no, sorry. You would wear them after the midday, like going closer to sunset, like after 4 p.m., would you say, or 5 p.m.?
Yeah, again, I use computers, so I just don't like glasses on my face. But if let's say you have a job and you work somewhere where there's no natural light, I would wear them all day.
Ah, okay.
And then I use the orange ones in the evening. So I watch Netflix, everybody else. I like watching TV, but my TV doesn't have any controls in that case.
It's so bright.
So I put the orange ones on about whenever the actual sunset is outside. So between then and now that we're in the summer month, obviously we have pretty long days.
Yeah, it's till 9 p.m.
In the winter, it might get dark at 4 and you go to bed. I go to bed early at 9.
Yeah.
So that's like 5 hours of wearing the orange ones. But in the summer now, it might just be an hour and a half or something.
Yeah, for me, I can only wear the yellow ones. I do have Viva Rays. I don't know which company you have, but I have Viva Rays where they clip on. And even though, let's say, if I would just use a separate orange, I can't do orange. It's too dark for me. I get, even like if I wear orange, I get annoyed. I get very frustrated. I'm like, it's something, I'm not relaxing. So, but I do wear yellow after sunset and it's perfectly fine.
But what are you using the orange ones for?
Oh, well, because they're saying you have to wear orange after like 6-7 p.m. to prepare for bed. That kind of like...
You want the melatonin to be released,
yes.
right? So if you're not... I have like all orange lights in my house now. Like I recently stayed with a friend that had these bright overhead lights on. I'm like, ooh... Like I literally had problems falling asleep. So set up your home environment to support your vision, and then you don't really need the orange ones if you're not exposing yourself to these blue.
You're absolutely right, because I live in a desert. I don't really have top lights. Like I don't turn them on at all. So mine is like very little small lamps in the evening time. So when I wear orange, I'm like, it's so dark. Like
at that point, it's too dark,
It's too dark for me. So I just stay with my yellow blue lighting glasses, which is fine. So let's go back to the Bates method that you were talking about. What surprised you most about it?
That vision improvement is all about relaxation. Number one, it's not about exercising the eyes. In fact, the eye muscles are often just too tense. And obviously, tense muscles are also weak muscles. But instead of training them, we have to relax them first. And the other piece, 90% of vision is actually working with the brain. So we see in the brain, we see back in the back of your head is the visual cortex. The retina is actually called a neural retina because the retina is part of the brain. It's actually the only part of the body where we can look into the brain without cutting open the head, right? Which is fascinating. So the optic nerve connecting the retina to the brain, to the visual cortex, that's all part of the visual process. The retina is the image upside down. Remember from school biology how the image is upside down? But then in the visual cortex, we see it the right way. And I always, in my teacher training, we just talked about the difference of looking, which is like pointing your eyes somewhere, you're looking. Seeing, which is kind of like taking in, I see you here. But then perceiving, to really understand. And perceiving is based on memory, on imagination, on your prior experiences, on your beliefs. Why do we, like our, maybe even our prejudice, whatever we have. So the perception is very different, but that's what we interpret the data. And when we know that, we can work with the brain and we can use things like memory, imagination, because if we can't imagine seeing something, we literally can't see it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so cool. Where do you think traditional eye care is still missing the mark when it comes to healing vision? Your David Bowie little eyeballs.
I'm grabbing my little eyeballs here. I think the issue is with eye care is that they just look at the eyeball. They look at the eyeball, but they don't look at the brain. Most eye doctors. There's a field of vision care called neurooptometry, which is different. But most eye doctors just look at the eye. They check the eye, which is really important, right? I want everybody to know, get your eyes checked, because many times we actually find mold, we find all kinds of issues, diabetes in the eyes before anything unusual, even in your blood work. So very important. Eye health needs to be checked, 100%. But when it comes to like giving you a prescription, it's not addressing the root cause of the problem. And that's why they say come back every year. And I sometimes see clients' prescriptions over the year. There was a quarter diopter more, and diopter is the strength of the glasses. A little tweak here, a little tight, and then every time you spend like $800, $900 on these glasses. And then the next problem is so-called progressive glasses, sometimes called varifocals, multifocals. Back in the day, my dad used to wear bifocals. You've seen them with the 9, right?
Yes.
And that's what happens, because here's one thing everybody needs to understand this. Diopters, which is the strength of the glass, it's just like kilos or pounds are the unit of weight, right? So it's like the higher the diopters, the stronger your glasses, right? The worse your vision. That hopefully makes sense. But diopters are based on distance. So when you have reading glasses on, you're right, I don't have any, but let's say you have reading glasses on. Now, if you were to look up, you immediately notice that you take them off, right? It doesn't work. So that's why we get the multifocals, because we actually need different. But what happens, they make the assumption that you look in the distance when you look straight. And when you look down, you're looking at reading distance, which is true when you're driving. When you're driving, you look straight. But what about computers? You see all these people at computers, and then really computer is close up. So they tilt their head back, look through the lower part of the lens, and then you get all this neck tension, all this partial stuff, which is connected to the creation of astigmatism. And I get everybody out of these glasses.
Just once you relax the neck.
We need to use the glasses only when we need them. So if you only need them for reading, then don't wear them for the computer or for distance. The other way around, if you're nearsighted, you need them for distance, but you might be fine reading or be on computer, then don't use them for that. Because you're putting a strain on the eyes using a wrong prescription. And again, we break it into different pairs if needed. And driving is the one example I usually use where bifocals are okay, because that's, again, But many people tell me when they first get these glasses, they fall, they trip, they get dizzy.
They get headaches.
Because when you walk down a flight of stairs, what do? You look down. Is that reading distance? No. Right?
And let's go back to the computers. Does it really matter how your computer is set up to your eyesight? Because a lot of people, what I see on the phones, they're always looking down, right? Even myself, I'm always reminding myself, bring the phone up. And even I tell my daughter, who's always having her phone down or her iPad, and I always tell her, please bring it up. How important is to have the phones or computer looking at your screens?
It's very important. So let's talk about computers first. So I always, in my programs, we always have a posture talk, right? Everybody that has a laptop, guys, if you have a laptop, you need an external keyboard, you need a laptop stand, and you need an external mouse. There's absolutely no way, because you want the top of the computer monitor at eye level. And most of us start like this, and then usually eventually we kind of slouch, right?
Yeah.
So I see people when that's too high, they do this, tilting up the head. So in order to, when you raise the laptop, there's no way you can now type on the keyboard. And you want your elbows or your arms in a 90-degree angle, relaxed. So you need to have a laptop stand. You want your feet flat on the floor. So sometimes the desk is too high or too low. So no laptop. If you once in a while work on the laptop on a plane or something, that's fine. But I'm talking about daily life. With phones, it's a little bit more challenging because nobody's going to do this. But if you can organize it in a way where you don't look down all that, we have this forward head posture. Our head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. Every inch forward, you have to double the neck has to carry now double the weight of the head. So we want to remind ourselves, have the phone, maybe even propped it up somewhere. But yeah, nobody's perfect. I mean, at the end of the day.
But at least you can remind yourself.
Yeah.
And if there's because a lot of people not even aware.
They're not aware.
Not aware. And we forget. And I have to remind myself constantly, bring the phone up.
Another thing with computers, if you have another screen, I have a secondary screen on my workstation, that you always want to move your head and maybe even your body. So if we just move the eyes in one way, we can do that. We have eyes that can move. But if you habitually do the same thing, there was actually research done by an optometrist, and they found with orchestra musicians, because violinists have their head tilted, trombone players, or maybe you're always left on the music stand, there's a connection to posture and astigmatism and how the eyes move. So I always say move your attention, like move your head. Not like a robot, but just kind of, when something's happening there, I'm not going to be like, what's that? Like, I would literally move around to look at it, right?
Yeah. And also, like, always look further and always expand your vision, meaning looking at the distance throughout. How often would you look at the distance when you're working on the computer?
That's why I have my computer at a window. So there's squirrels, there's birds. Like, first of all, you want some kind of, you don't want to make it like, because here's the thing, I'm all about practical stuff. Who's going to set a timer?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right? But we should do that. Our eyes were never meant, think about our history of humans. We were never meant to be locked in a distance for like a long time. So you want your eyes moving near and far and moving around. The more movement, that's what I do. A lot of my practices are about getting that movement back. And it's not so much eye exercises. Sometimes eye exercises can be helpful, but it's more about like teaching the system how normal people with normal vision, how their eyes work, because we have to undo some of the bad stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
So I would, when you read a book, what I do, put a bookmark in the book, and then next page you have the bookmark, you look up, and maybe some people like to have an eye chart, or sometimes just like something that you like to look at.
I always like to take, if I read the book, I always like to take a moment after like 5 pages, kind of like process that 5 pages and look up or look in the distance, And also, when we do read books like this. We never read books like this. Is that also creates attention for the eyes when it's always down?
I think again, it depends on how much else are you doing. Are you aware of your posture? I did a yoga class this morning. Yes, forward head posture is a real problem, tech neck, right? We talk about those things, but it doesn't mean that, you have to hold the book really high also. We just have to be aware and have a variety of things in our life, right? If we spend 8 hours at the computer, we have to be more vigilant than somebody who does it for 1 hour a day, right? Somebody who moves a lot. So yeah, I think awareness is the number one thing. And then also like, what is your vision problem? What are you doing that causes more strain? Does that make sense?
I have a funny story. I'm sure you remember when the Botox came around, especially here in Hollywood. It was very popular. And as a young girl, I think I got my first Botox at 30. And even though I did not need it, but it was so fashionable. And everybody was so scared that we're going to get older faster with wrinkles. So we had to do Botox. So I went to, they put on your forehead. That's what you usually, as a young girl, you were like, oh, let's fix the foreheads. So I went to this famous doctor, and he put, in the back in the days, they would put a lot of Botox. It's like now these days, if you want to do, you just say, hey, just add little. So back in the days, I remember I was driving, and I was like, started losing the eyesight. I'm like, what? I'm 30? I'm losing my eyesight after Botox. I didn't realize that was the Botox. And I'm like, I need to go see the ophthalmologist, right? So I went and they checked my eyes. They're like, you're fine. You have a perfect vision. But I'm like, but I can't really see, especially when I'm driving. I have to I can't focus. It feels like blurry. And sometimes like even feels like so much strain in my eyes. And then I realized the same doctor actually was, while giving me Botox, kind of a funny said, oh yeah, one doctor overdid the Botox on this patient. She came back to us. We had to fix her. Yet this doctor over Botoxed me. And I almost for that 2 months, I couldn't see properly. So it's interesting how, I mean, a lot of, people out there getting Botox. So be careful. If you feel like you're losing vision, it might be the Botox that is straining your
it
eyes.
could be because it freezes the I've never
the muscles.
in my whole life gotten Botox. I'm plus it's a toxin, actually.
Yeah.
So it freezes the muscles. So maybe it affected some of the extraocular muscles, or they went somewhere in an area. I don't know. But I think it's so important to look at all these different things. You notice that immediately. A lot of times, we don't put two and two together. We don't really know what was the thing, right? So glad you didn't end up getting glasses and you realized.
Well, because when I went, they checked my eyesight. They were like, "You're fine." They're like, they didn't even think about anything was wrong. But I'm like, there's something wrong. And then I put it two together. It was just a funny thing.
But if they would have found something, you might have gotten glasses.
Right.
Wow.
And that would have been but thank God that didn't happen. So what's one vision habit 95% of people do daily without realizing it's making their eyesight worse?
I know we talked about it already, but the staring is a really big thing.
Yeah.
Like staring. And let me get my little eyeball again. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the yellow spot, the fovea lutea. This is where we have the sharp. And obviously this is a huge eyeball. Our actual eyeball is just about 1 inch in size, so way smaller. This is where we have the sharpest vision. It's the size of a pinhead. When you try to see, if I look at you right now, right? I look at your right eye. I don't see your left eye as clearly. If I want to see your left eye, I move my attention to your left eye. I want to see your mouth, whatever, everything else. We're moving. So when people try to stare, which is very common, they try to see, let's say, the whole phone screen, whatever it is, clearly at once. I can see you, I can see the cameras, I can see all the stuff in the periphery. But if I want to see the palm tree, I'm going to have to look over to the palm tree, right? So when you stare, which combines a non-blinking, but kind of trying to capture everything, like making a huge strain, that is an effort. And sometimes what I teach people that don't get that idea, if you have letters in the chart, or what do we have here? Or we have us, right? Try to see, let's say, the bottom of my necklace better while looking at my face. Like you make it extreme. So try to make it worse by doing the bad habit. So, you can practice that with sometimes I say 2 thumbs. Have 2 thumbs out, look at one, but now try to see this one better by looking at that one. And it's like a huge strain. It's right? And then you move them closer and closer and closer. And they will, sometimes, most people get it, but sometimes now I see them both the same. And then we work on bringing them back. But you can even, even if you have 1 thumb and you look at the edge of that, you still see that better than the outer edge. And so the more we practice and understand eye anatomy, and that's why the so-called saccadic eye movements, the little eye jumps, are so important, and we can improve them. Just like blinking and breathing, we do it automatically, but not well. So I would say staring is probably the number 1 habit, is that, and then blinking is one of those simple things you can do.
Beautiful. I've heard I'm from Russia myself, and I don't know if you heard that KGB in Russia, they taught their agents how to have the best eyesight. And there was a technique that they did, and I'm not sure if that's still true to what you're teaching, where they said you basically you start here, then you bring it to your nose, right? And then up close you start moving, holding it here, you're holding it here, you're moving it. There's different directions of training your eye literally for 5 minutes. And then they were saying that their eyesight were amazing till they were very old ages.
I personally am not a fan of eye exercises, but they can help. So again, it's like with our body, think about it, or the brain. If we don't use it, we lose it, right? So if we never, this is called converging. Converging is, where's my 2 little eyeballs? So when we look in the distance, our eyes are parallel, right? When we look up close, like crossing our eyes, the eyes have to come toward each other. The medial muscle has to tighten, the outer one has to lengthen. So we have to, when we lose our near vision and we never look up close, of course it's like you never ever stretch your hamstrings or you sit all day. Of course your hip flexors are tight. So we have to do that. And certain eye movements like that can also be helpful with neurological problems. So sometimes it's even connected to other body parts. I think they can be really helpful, but in most cases, what we need to teach people is how to use the eyes well all day long. And again, the eye, like if you move your eyes in any direction and there's tension, that's a helpful thing to do, because now you know there's certain, we have 6 outer eye muscles, so that one of them or 2 of them are really tense. Then I call it like stretching, right? It can be helpful, but it's so much like when we look up, we amp up our nervous system, and we look down, we relax. So there's so many. It's not just the eye muscles. There's so much connected to how our eyes move.
And so how does improving your eyesight affect things like focus, memory, or mood?
Right. So I talked a little bit about astigmatism and that kind of multitasking. We can't really multitask. Yes, we can walk and talk. But if you've ever talked to somebody on the phone and they're like writing something and then you're like, wait, what do you want to do? Wait, can you say that again? Because it's both language, right? So we can't multitask. So with astigmatism or other conditions, there's a lot of jumping back and forth. You literally have problems focusing. So I always say like Pomodoro Timer is a great app where you set it. It was developed by an Italian. I forgot his name.
App.
But it's like 25 minutes of like focus, which is. And then you also think about, okay, I have all these projects, like planning a little bit. I want to focus on this thing now. I know I have these other things to do later, but I put them literally in my peripheral field.
Yeah.
And then when I'm done with this thing that I'm focusing on, so visual and mental focus go hand in hand. And when we are mentally focused, and the vision actually drives this, we are a little bit in a sympathetic arousal state versus like relaxing and not really focusing on anything. So there's a difference between staring, like trying to see everything sharp at once, and there's a difference between, I always use the forest. Like you're in the forest and you're kind of bathing in the forest. You're like enjoying the light and the colors and the smell, and you're really, versus when you're focused, you're on a scavenger hunt and like you're looking for a particular tree. Is there like you know what I mean? So that's the mental focus versus just relaxing. But then if you try to see all the trees and you look at all the trees at the same time for a sign, that's a strain. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Mental focus and visual focus, that's why learning disabilities and vision problems sometimes get confused, like chicken and egg, like what's the actual problem? And more often than not, visual problems can also be a problem, like you see it's learning problems or ADHD, but it could also be related to vision problems.
Interesting. I've noticed myself when I go on a walk every day, and sometimes I'm like, if I go on a walk and I'm still busy, I can't get out of my mode working what, I'm still like walking and doing the phone, the checking, whatever. And then I have to stop myself and I'm like, no, the walk is for the relaxation, to enjoy, to get the nature. It's a meditation, right? So, and I've noticed that when I do catch myself in this moment walking and doing this, I'm still in stress mode. Soon as I put the phone down, literally 10 seconds, the parasympathetic mode becomes, and you become so alive and you're like, oh, that's what the walk's supposed to be.
And when we're not relaxed, we don't have peripheral vision. When we're in that arousal state, like sympathetic mode, we actually have more like a kind of quote unquote tunnel vision. Pupils are a little dilated. But there's a little technique that I would love to share with you that's super simple.
That.
I call it color of the day. And you pick a color. Pick a color right now.
Red.
Okay, red. So on your drive home later on, like look out for things that are red. And you will be amazed. Like, I've never noticed this red house, even when you go on your walks. And that keeps you in the present moment. The only moment we actually have eyesight is present moment. And it's not like you need to do that all day long or for hours, but it kind of keeps your attention to like you all of a sudden you're noticing things. But sometimes, honestly, I like to walk and talk. Sometimes I do my talk dates while I'm walking. It's actually really good for the brain, And so we can't always. Sometimes we don't want to be present all the time, to be honest. You know what I mean? But I feel like forcing yourself to look at nature when you're not really interested or something is going on in your mind, I think it's also okay. But being mindful about it, I think being mindful about it versus judging yourself. And looking at the phone is actually not good because you can trip and fall.
It's true too. It's absolutely. So what I'm hearing here from the whole conversation, and literally be mindful about blinking, looking up, stretching, Pomodoro effect, take breaks, have, desks set up certain way, and then move around, right? So and also be mindful of parasympathetic mode, relaxation, the massaging yourself. Do you say massaging every night before you go to bed? That's the kind of like...
I love the tiny habits method.
Okay.
It's like whatever habit you're already doing, and then do the littlest worst case. Let's say, because I don't massage myself every day. I'm looking at my balls on my yoga mat. First of all, leave it out. But let's say every time I have little balls in my bathroom, I brush my teeth and I stand on
yes,
them.
Those are the
So
best.
make it easy for yourself. Set up the tiniest habit and attach it to something you're already doing. And then don't put your glasses on or your contacts in if you really don't need them. And I hear this all the time. Oh, I realize I don't need the glasses for the hike. You have to remember, you cannot be relaxed if you don't feel safe. So safety first. If you're trying to I'm a hero, I'm not wearing my glasses. But now you're for instance, walking you don't feel safe, then that's not the right approach.
Maybe have them here with you,
Yeah.
And then when you need it, put them on. Let's talk about actually the lenses. That's the big one. First of all, lenses for people who are using in everyday life to see. Also, people using lenses for eye color change for fun. And I remember when I did that back in the days. At the end of the day, I had headaches. Literally every time I had to use those lenses where it was like, I don't know what it did, but I didn't like them. But what can people do to improve their eyesight from stop wearing lenses? And I'm sure it's so scary because it's a natural for them to put in the morning and go about the day. What little nuggets, things that they can do?
I'm assuming you speak about contact lenses.
Contact lenses,
because we also call the
yes.
lenses and glasses
Yes,
lenses.
I mean about contact lenses.
So, if you wear contact lenses, here is for everybody that's nearsighted. In other words, you got the correction for distance. But now, everybody else don't listen right now. So for everybody who gets them for distance vision but doesn't really need anything for near vision, or maybe way less. And now you're spending all day at the computer. If you're like a driver and you're driving all day, fine, right? But if you're working on the computer, remember that what I talked about earlier, the strength in your little contact lenses for distance is for 20 feet distance. Your computer's about 2 feet away. So I tell people that are on the computer all day that are nearsighted, get your eye doctor to write your contact lens prescription for computer distance. And then the difference between that and your driving might be -1, maybe -1.25, but they can tell you. And then all you do, you leave the glasses in your car, wherever you need them, and then you put those glasses on top of your contact, which gives you, because the diopters add up. It's like mathematics. You just add up. And that way you're not overprescribed, because that's a huge problem with nearsightedness, that people wear their contacts all day long, and you're straining your eyes. And once you get older, your body is literally revolting against that, because it's so straining to have that high power lens in your eyes when you really don't need it at the close-up point. For people that are farsighted, I don't find that many farsighted people wearing contact lenses. For you, it's the other way around, where you really need the contact lenses for up close, and that's the higher number. For you, I would just say I wouldn't recommend contact lenses. Is there a way for you to find a way to only use them sparingly? And because glasses we can easily take on and off, right? We might need something for a computer, a different thing for driving. It's easy to switch, right? With contact, it's more challenging. So I think it's more challenging to improve your vision. Again, if you're nearsighted, that works fine with computer distance, and then putting glasses on top for driving. But if you're farsighted and wear contacts, it's more challenging.
Yeah. And do you say your teachings and your courses are also good for kids?
Here's the thing with kids. I used to work with kids, and I have 2 daughters, and I can say that, the parents have to do it. The parents have to, first of all, do it for themselves. They have to be a role model. You cannot say to little Johnny, okay, now sit and rest your eyes or practice this. You have to do it first. And with kids, everything has to be a game. So we teach something called resting your eyes, like palming. You close your eyes and you cover them with your cupped hands. You could cover a small child's eyes with your hands and tell them a bedtime story about the eyes floating in the cloud, like something relaxing. Or you can make a little game. You both close your eyes and then one person open, and then when the other person opens up, you make it games. You know, when you notice, like how I had my right eye was turning in, when you play ball with a little kid, you can roll the ball to the outside. So encouraging that side, you know, look at the eye dominance, the hand dominance. Do a lot of brain gym was developed for children. So, you know, like how can we activate both sides of the brain? But here's the cool thing about the eyes. Each eyeball, so my right eye is connected to the right side of the brain and the left side and vice versa. So both eyes are connected to both sides of the brain. So a lot of this, like, you know, like that's why I think playing handball was so good for me. Because I had to throw and catch and like, you know, and you just look around, but as the next player, we need more of that. And we need to work on our peripheral vision. Eyesight is just the sharpness of your vision, your night vision, your color vision, your binocular vision, your peripheral vision. We need to address all these, the vision for your life.
Yeah.
So with children, the parents can take my programs and then, you know, once you understand the principles, you can make color of the day. Hey, I spy something red. And then you look around and you make it a game. You kids are not, you can't really do, I mean, if they're a little older, you can also do some exercise. But I was told my eyes are broken. There was something wrong with them. And the last thing you want as a kid is like being different and having to do these things. It's just felt...
And maybe encourage the kids not to say like, oh, you're going to be wearing glasses forever, or like, this is your, you know, this is it, you know, like maybe encourage and give the, put the manifestations inside them, say, we're going to fix this, let's get training done, right? Is that will help also to change the brain, the way they think about...
I wouldn't even say fix this, because fix this is already implying that something is wrong.
Right.
And sometimes children, so there's a specialty of optometry called developmental or behavioral optometry, and they work specifically with children that have lazy eye, that have some kind of problems with how the two eyes work together. And I think it's very important, like, because ophthalmologists usually do a surgery where they cut the eye muscles, but then the eyes are looking straight. Where are my two little eyeballs? So let's say you have a squint, one eye goes like this, right? So they might cut the eye muscles and now the eyes look perfectly straight, but that doesn't mean that the brain actually knows how to use them together. So vision therapy is sometimes, because I don't work in person with people, and with children when they're little, you need to also work, you know, you need to do stuff in person. So that sometimes I recommend looking up a behavioral or developmental optometrist, and those are more exercise based, but they can be really helpful. And then again, playing ball games, like getting the kids off the devices. I am so glad my daughters are older now. It must be so hard. I really don't want to be a parent nowadays, but those screens are just, it's just like back in the day, have them play outside, climb the trees, play the games, play ball, like do all the stuff that I know it must be.
But I think parents now also overdrive the kids too hard from one, class to another, from school to there to that. So the kids are in constant stress. They never have time to relax as well.
Let them be bored. I remember we were like bored. We were like laying on the backs in the grass, looking at the clouds, like having, and you imagine it, kids have such great imagination.
Yeah.
Kids need to be bored again.
They do. Because my daughter says sometimes, I'm bored. I'm like, well, it's good.
Yeah.
Be bored.
Yeah.
No, I am bored. You don't hear me.
Well,
I'm like,
figure something out you want to do.
I said, yes. I said, go and figure it out, you know. She's like, and then she will like tell me a couple of times, and when I tell her, yeah, it's good, just go do something, be bored. And then I tell her a story. I said, I loved being bored back in the days. We would just go lay on the grass and look at the sky and imagine for hours.
Or play with the dolls. And we, you know, like, all the stories we made up, the Legos.
So
like
get bored. So let's talk about your course. How long is your course? And just walk us through your course.
So we just finished a free 4-day course. I call it See Better in Just 4 Days. And the reason I'm doing that one is because I would say, don't believe me. Don't believe your eye doctor. See for yourself that we can already make improvements in 4 days. I have a 21-day course called 21 Days to Better Eyesight Experience that was designed as a kind of foundational, quick start, not much time investment for people that just want to kind of dip their toes in the water. And then my signature program is called Naturally Clear Vision. It's a 12-week program where we really start with, we put an eye chart on the wall. We measure our vision with glasses, without glasses. I get everybody into reduced glasses for the tasks where they need glasses. And then we look at all the different factors: peripheral vision, central vision, day vision, night vision. Like we really explore like how the two eyes work together, mental, emotional things. What is coming up for you? We actually start with the future vision. What is the vision you have for yourself? I'm not a superhero comic book person, but remember, when we look at Clark Kent had glasses, Superman didn't. Diana Parker had glasses, Wonder Woman didn't, right? Like, so what, like, because in it, like, when you have clear vision, you're more confident. You also allow other people to look at you, because a lot of times, I remember when I got rid of my glasses as a teenager, I was still not really confident, right? I was like, I had Chrissy Hynde I had these bangs that were kind of, because I was kind of hiding behind my hair. So where do you like not want to be seen? Because that's another piece of you can't see the world clearly, like, or like if you're not able, like, because people will also look at you.
Yeah.
So
you know what I've noticed lately when we are, in about in world, people don't even look at each other anymore in the eye to eye. They get scared, and when you talk to someone, their eyes are always floating. They never connect with your eyes. And what I've noticed, what I do, I always, if I walk, I look at someone's eyes and I give that smile, and suddenly I can just see the person like becomes alive, and they get almost like shocked, like someone looked at them, a stranger looked at them in their eye. I think we forgot to be, personal and to look at others people's eyes and admire, because eyes are the soul of the universe, right? The whole person. So we look at your eyes and I can see who you are. And I think it's beautiful.
I think that's so important. And we know from the polyvagal theory that, above the diaphragm, the vagus nerve, which connects to the ears and the eyes and the throat. That's why humming, singing, all these things are relaxing, but also social interactions.
Yeah.
And Stephen Porges, who discovered this polyvagal theory, talks about with appropriate mammals. So it might be a cat or dog, a friendly one. Because if the other thing isn't friendly, then immediately we get into fight or flight mode. But you're absolutely right. I think there's this avoidance of social interactions, because it's also like, what do they want? There's like a lot of fear.
A lot of fear,
right?
And scared.
Yeah.
I think just you guys
frustration.
Go around and look at people's eyes, and you will be so much happier. Thank you so much for coming here. And my last question would be, what 3 takeaways you want for listeners to take away from this conversation?
I think the key takeaway is that, yes, we have aging, we have genetics. Do I look older now? Yes, our body changes. I think pretending that doesn't happen isn't working. But your outlook on life and how you understand your own physiology, including your brain and your eyes, you have so much power over how you see as you get older. So don't put everything in the hands of doctors. I think seeing an eye doctor is very important to make sure your eyes are healthy. But understand these things, because you can change your whole health, and that includes your vision, which is pun intended, even with holistic functional medicine, naturopathic people, often a blind spot.
By the way, I know you're in your 60s. You're absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. And of course, I wanted to ask you more about what you do for staying so beautiful, but that's going to be another conversation. Please stay beautiful and help as many people as you can, where they can find you, and when is your next course?
So naturallyclearvision.com is my website. And then I'm also known as Holistic Vision Coach on Instagram and YouTube. And those are pretty much the main places I'm hanging out. So. And
when is your next course?
My next starts on June 5th.
Okay.
And we're also doing one in the fall.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. And this was an incredible conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Claudia, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and perspective today. This conversation was a powerful reminder that how we see the world is deeply connected to how we live physically, emotionally, and mentally. For everyone listening, I hope this episode gave you something to think about and something to try. If you want to learn more about Claudia's work or explore the Naturally Clear Vision method, you'll find all the links you need in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care of yourself, take care of your vision, nervous system, and remember, wellness is life.